Hey guys, my name is xOctoManx and this is part 24 of my turn-based battle system tutorial. In the last part we were starting to create a world state machine or a game state machine to handle or switch between several states which are happening in the whole world, in a town or in the battle itself, and to determine if we are going to get attacked and so on and so forth, and what's happening when we get attacked. And that's where we start off today. In the game manager script, so open this one up, we already created a small function with nothing inside, which is called start battle. When we are starting a battle, we at first want to randomize several things to fill in data into the game manager script. So at first we want to say or set the amount of enemies we will get or can encounter. So the amount of enemies can be set to any value we want to. So I create a new integer and call this one enemy amount. So the enemy amount is going to be equal to, and now we randomize that number, and we randomize that between the possible or maximum possible and 0. Or at least in this case at 1. So at least one monster should be in the battle, and the maximum is going to be the amount in the particular region we set. So the maximum amount in region 1, for example, is 4. We set it this one, so we want to make sure that we are entering this. So let me type this one out. It is going to be regions, and then in square brackets we need to know which is the region we are currently in, and we will go into that in just a second. So let me just take the first number in the list, so number 0, and which is the current region, for example, and then we want to take the maximum amount of enemies, which is currently 4, but we want a maximum of 4, so we need to increment that value of 4 by 1, so we get already 4. Since random.range between 1 and 4 would only return a number between 1 and 3, but not 4, because the last will never be reached. That's why we add 1 to that to get our number of 4. Okay. So with that done, gonna end the line, but I want to make sure that I am in the correct region for my region I want to be in. So instead of setting this one by hand with 0 or 1, we want to drive that regions, don't forget to save that regions, by a value or an integer, which is, taking a look of that. So if this is going to be a public, type that directly under region data or wherever you like to. This is just a counting integer or basically a number holder, and this is I call this one car region. So for the current region, we don't need to set anything because we will drive that by the collision handler. What we do is, we don't drive it by the collision handler, but by the hero itself. So in our onTriggerEnter function, we want to have 2 more if statements, and this is going to be if the other.tag is going to be equal to, and we already have those in here. If this is going to be region 1, then I want to make sure that the region in the game manager will be the current region is going to be set to 0 if this is going to be region 1. If I am in region 2, I'm gonna copy that one over, copy, paste, since we have 2 regions at the moment. And if we are in region 2, I want to make sure that I get the element 1 in our regions list. I hope you got that, but I believe so. So what we want to set is the game manager, no, not game object. So the game manager instance dot current regions is going to be equal to, for this region it's going to be number 0. And when we are in region 2, we want to make sure that the current region is going to be 1. Don't forget to save that. Let's get back in here. So this region will now drive by the region we were hitting when they are tagged correctly. And we can now take that current region and pass in that parameter into that randomness. So we're taking the enemy amount of the corresponding region we were in or we are in. Now, what we want to do next is we want to know which enemies are we going to send into the battle. Now we will loop through with a for loop. The for loop again is going to be something to simplify things, to count through, and until we don't reach that particular number or whatever amount, then we will continue with the code in a for loop. So do that until you reached the one in the middle. And the one in the middle, which is going to be the enemy amount. So while I, which gets counted from 0 up to to the maximum of that, we want to increment I until we are done. And at the end we say I++. And in here we want to take enemies from a particular region and pass that into a list which is storing every chosen enemy from that list. What we do is we create that list and call this one enemies to battle. Oh, and of course it's going to be of type lists game object. We call that list enemies to battle. That's going to be equal to new list. New list of type game object, like this. Okay, so enemies to battle or enemies, it's more than one. So now we can fill enemies to battle, which is that list, with data from our regions or that particular regions we are currently in that case the current region. So the enemies to battle dot add, we want to add to that list. And what do we want to add to that list is we want at first to know the region in the regions list, and we are currently in. This is a current region as we have already done in here. In that current region we have possible enemies, and out of all existing possible enemies I want a random amount of any possible enemies in there. So what we say is random.range, and the random range is going to be between 0, which is the 0th item, so the first enemy in the list, comma, and the maximum possible amount, which is regions. I'm sorry for the length, but it's going to get a bit longer in this case. So it's again regions, and again the current region we are in, dot possible enemies dot count. So the maximum amount in that list. And now the function will take any random guys from that list. At least one has to be in there. So there will be an error which is coming when there's nothing in that list. So make sure you later on enter something. I will go through all of that with you together anyways. Okay, so now we have chosen from a random enemy amount, random enemies from our region we are currently in, between the first and the maximum amount in that particular list of the particular region. And now, since we have that done, we can set our hero to something. And what we need to know is our hero's last position needs to be set. So last hero position needs to be set to GameObject.find And what is the game object we are looking for? Of course, the hero character. No typos, character, like this. And what we need from this guy is the game object.transform.position. So the current position of our hero character in the game or in the world. Now we have saved that last hero position that is needed, so we are able to go through that to that position when we leaving the battle. So the next thing is we want to set the last scene to the current scene. Since we want to come back to that scene, we have to load it, so we need to store that somewhere so we know we have been in the world but not in the town or wherever. So what we do is we save the current scene into that variable. So we say scene manager dot get active scene, which is this. Then we need that brackets dot name. Since we are saving a string but not the scene, we need to end the to add the dot name behind that. So we know the name of the last scene at this point. Then the next thing is we want to load the level. Loading the level will later on be depending on in which kind of region you are. So you can always pass in any region you want, depending on if it's in grassland or in tree land. So what we can do again is in our region data class, we create a new variable, maybe over that list, otherwise we don't see that good enough. Public, string battle scene. So the battle scene is nothing at that point. Gonna save. And when I go back to my game manager, you will see in just a second there will be a new string. This is going to be the battle scene. And the battle scene, in my case, is called battle scene. So with that option, you have the possibility to load any battle scene with any background you like. In my case, again, I take this 2 times, but I can now, battle on land, battle in the desert, battle everywhere I want. So what I can do with that battle scene thing, instead of writing it like this, I can just go and take regions, and then in square brackets the current region, or current regions, dot battle scene. And now I have the possibility to load any scene depending on what the area is. If it's water, then it's water. When it's land, then it's land, and so on and so forth. Okay, so after loading the scene, we can also do that beforehand. I want to reset the hero. Basically, it shouldn't matter where we do that. Maybe we should do that beforehand. So we set is walking to be false. We also set got attacked to be false. And we also can get encountered to be false. Don't forget to save. And now we should be able to start that battle. And I'm gonna copy that start battle name. And when we are on the battle state, I want to make sure that I start the battle or call the function we were just creating and then hop to idle. So game state equals to game states dot idle. So I want to change, I don't want to repeat all of that since we are still in the update function. I don't want to repeat calling start battle. So I go, after I'm done with all that, to the idle state. I don't do anything in there. It's just, better to not overload anything you don't need to. Okay, don't forget to save again. And in here we were just creating all that region stuff. And let's test if we get an encounter and can load the battle correctly. So I'm around here, I'm gonna walk around, I'm gonna open up my enemies to battle. I'm gonna walk right now a bit here and we got an encounter, but an argument out of range. This argument out of range is because I don't have any enemies in my region 1 or 2, in my possible enemies. So that's what we're gonna do pretty quick right now. I'm gonna go to my scenes folder and open up the battle scene. And in the battle scene, as you may remember, there we have two guys and here 2 enemies. One is called enemy 1. One is called enemy 2, and both have different stats and stuff. What we do is we create a new prefabs folder, or a folder into the prefabs, and I just name this one all enemies. This is more or less our small database. What we do is we drag in enemy 1 and enemy 2. Now also you can see, since they are prefabs right now and everything is updated, they are not dark blackish in here anymore. Also, since we are in the battle scene, we need to fiddle around with a lot of stuff in here before we can go forward. At first, since we already have created our enemy prefabs, I want to make sure that I delete them from the scene. But before I do that, I believe I go and create some placeholders for the spawn points where all my enemies are able to spawn. So I select enemy 1 and create under him a empty game object. Then I drag out that game object so I have the correct position of that game object. It's floating over here, as you can see. And it will automatically have the correct height of that position. Later on, if you're going to create your own enemies, make sure that you have an empty game object under it. So you can, it's easier to move stuff around. I will go over later on and do that. Maybe not. I don't know. Okay, so this empty game object is going to be our spawn point. Oh no, not that. Spawn point 1. And since we are not able to see anything at that point, I go over to here and add a small icon to this. So I can see this one better, maybe a blue one. Now you can see there's that small sign in here, which is our spawn point. We could also go over and choose something to see it better with some text inside. Now I can get rid of the second enemy. And now I can duplicate that spawn point, I don't know, 100 times, but I only need 4 of them. The only thing is I need to figure out what are nice positions for them for the camera. So maybe we're gonna put them all together a bit. I don't know. It depends also how big your hero characters are later on. Okay, so now I'm gonna go over and rename them. We don't want to get too lazy. Spawn point 3 and spawn point 4. But that's not everything we need. We need more because who should spawn that if there is no food to spawn in? And what we're gonna do is we go to our battle manager, and in here we have our battle state machine, and we need to add some code to load in the correct enemies and all the other things. So open this one up in MonoDevelop in my case, or Visual Studio maybe in your case. And what I want to do is, instead of start, I want to go into the awake function, since I want to make sure that every spawning stuff is going to be happening before the actual battle starts. So create a void awake function. And what we currently do is we look through the battle, and if we are able to find something with the enemy tag, then we go over and add that to the enemy battle list and so on and so forth. What I need to do is, or what we need to do is, at first we need to make sure that we've actually spawned them to the particular or to the spawn points we just created. So at first I want to create a list of spawn points. So I say public list. This is going to be outside of any thing, just in the class. Oops. I'm just gonna command this again, spawn points. So public list. We can also use an array. I like lists somehow. And these lists are of type transform, but not with a small t. I need a big T for this. And I call this one spawn points. And of course, it's going to be a new list of transforms. There we go. So when we are going to save the battle state machine, we should be able to get a new list in here. Oh yeah, there we go. And we have 4 spots, or we need 4 spots. But we don't need to type that in manually. We can also drag in every spawn point by hand. And make sure that the number 1 spawn point is at the very front, so it's not looking too ugly. Also place them wherever you want. We will test out all that stuff later on, and make sure every spot is filled and is correctly in the right order, since we are looping through them in just a second. So don't forget to save the scene and go back to the battle state machine into the awake function. What we want to do is, of course, we loop through the enemy amount and then fill in all chosen enemies which are in the enemy to battle list and take them and place them onto the spawn points. And that's pretty easily done with a for loop again. So for int I is going to be equal to 0. Oops, I forgot the I. And of course, while I is going to be smaller than the game manager dot instance dot enemy amount. Yeah, we need to go to the game manager for just a second, and the int enemy amount, gonna copy that, needs to be stored in the very top. So for the battle in here, I'm gonna create that int. It's going to be a public int, since we need to read the data from the battle state machine. Gonna save game manager, go back to battle state machine. So dot instance enemy amount. Now we have that, and again we increment I until we are done. And what do we want to do is we want to create new game objects. This game object, we call this one new enemy. So new enemy is not taken, hopefully, at the moment. If so, then name it in something you don't have actually. And what we want to do is we want to instantiate the enemies we were choosing, or which are in the list of the game manager. Enemies to battle list. Game manager dot instance dot enemies to battle, then square brackets, and then I. Since we start at 0, the first enemy will be the first one which is in the list. And where do we want to spawn that? And now we loop through the spawn points list. So spawn points, and then again square brackets in their I. So at the 0 position, we want the 0 enemy in the 0 position. Dot position, of course, since it's of type transform. And in the rotation, we just say quaternion dot identity. So we rotate this to its identical, or in its original rotation. And we will of course want to typecast this one as a game object. Okay, so now we have instantiated all our enemies, but we will have a problem. All of them will be renamed weirdly, since they will get a clone behind the name and all the other things. So we want to rename them And also, since our enemy state machine and our hero state machine, or basically the enemy state machine, is looking to the name and it needs to be different, we want to make sure that we rename them all properly. No matter how you want to rename them, at first I'm gonna take the original name and add something to it, and then I pass in the data into the object again. So what we say is, new enemy, since we just instantiated that one, we have the possibility to change change something at that point and nowhere later on. Well, we do, but yeah, not cool. What we want to do is we want to get the component enemy state machine. So we have access to the name enemy state machine. And in there we have our class, our enemy class, which holds everything like HP, name, defense, and so on, and attacks, and all the other things. And what we need is the name. We already renamed that, if you may remember, long ago. And we want to add something, and I take an underscore and a number. And the number, in my case, can be the I, which we are taking from the for loop itself. Or if you don't want to have a 0 at the end, you can also add stuff to the I. So I plus 1 or something like that. Maybe like this. So you have the enemy name will be enemy underscore 1. So if the enemy name is going to be, I don't know, horror kid, then you will have horror kid underscore 1. But this is only in the enemy state machine, but not in the game object itself. What we want to do is we also want to name the game object as it is. As you may remember, some had problems in the past. What we want to do now is we now want to rename the game object of the or the name directly on the new enemy itself. So what we want to do is we want to say new enemy.get component. Now we want to do the same stuff as we have done here. So we want again get the enemy state machine. We may catch that information later on. So we take the enemy state machine again from the enemy where it is on. And again, we go into our enemy class where the name is in, and we set this one to the same as our current name is. So what we do is we say that both have the same name, the enemy class and the game object. So now we name that to new enemy.name. And that's almost everything. Also, when we are done, we want to add the enemy to the enemies in battle list. So we say enemies in battle, which is our list of enemies, as you may remember. Enemies in battle dot add. So we add this particular enemy which is coming through and say new enemy. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Now we need to make sure that we have enemies we can choose from. Also make sure, let me clear that. Also make sure that you do not enter the game manager into the battle scene. Otherwise you would have really strange problems, trust me. Okay, so leave that scene alone as it is. We still have everything done, I believe. So we go to the scenes and I go to the world map. And what I also want to do is I want to change or create a new material for my regions. This is just for me and seeing stuff better. You can do everything you want. Later on you don't need any material on that, but you'd only need the colliders. And I want to make the regions transparent red. So I go to transparent in here and decrease the opacity of the color in the alpha channel. Gonna rename that to transparent red. and I drag that onto my regions in here. Well, that's super transparent, but as you can see, I still have the possibility to see those regions. Maybe I'm gonna give it a bit more alpha. Maybe like this. Yeah, that looks okay. Don't forget to save. And now I go to the game manager again. And in possible enemies, I want to make sure that the region 1 is able to spawn enemy 1. So I drag this one into possible enemies, so I have at least one in there. And also in region 2, I want to make sure that I have a possible enemy of enemy 2. I could also mix them up. I can do 300 different enemies in one region. So this would reduce the spawn possibility. If you have more than 4, the possibility is smaller to get everything inside. Okay, don't forget to apply the changes to the Game Manager prefab. So it will, if you open up the prefabs folder Game Manager, you will see it will still be in there. And that's what we want and need. So now let's try to encounter a battle. As you can see, our hero is over here. I believe I tint my hero a bit with any color pretty quick. Maybe, I don't know, blue. Okay. Don't forget to save again. Okay, let's play that. And there is my character, as you can see, the blue cube. Now I can walk around with that, so I can only see that in here. And now we got as you have seen, a 4 encounter battle with 4 enemies inside. As you can see, they got renamed to enemy 1 underscore 1 underscore 2 underscore 3 underscore 4, and the same in here, in the name. This is important because they need the same name as in here. Otherwise, they would only one would act. So now what we can do is we can go for it and let the engine work a bit. And let's see. Now you can see the first enemy is in the battle manager. Where is it? There we go. As you can see, the input of enemy 1, 2 in the perform list is already in. So enemy 1, 2, 3 and 4 are already in the perform list since we have been too slow. And then we can do our turn. Okay, there's a small problem in here. Gonna pause or unpause that. Oh, there's a strange problem again. It is not clearing off the list as it should be. Okay, so that is what I need to go over and fix soon. But I believe it was fixed, or I thought it was fixed already, so I will go and look into that pretty quick. Okay, since we are adding all that enemies automatically into the battle list, we need to take care of that line in here. We don't want to search again for the game tagged guys with enemy. We just needed to do that with that line because we didn't instantiate them because they have been there already. So make sure that you comment this line out or completely get rid of it, since we don't need that. Don't forget to save. I just go over and comment this one out in here. And let's see if our battle is working better right now. So we walk around in just a second. When it's done compiling, then we will go and get randomly encountered by 3 enemies. And now we have all those 3 and we are able to attack them. And also they are able to attack us. Also everything is going to get updated pretty good. So in the battle state machine, in the function of winning or performing a win action, under the for loop, while we are looping through that hero stuff, we want to make sure that we get back where we came from, at the same position we have been at, and of course we need a new hero object. So the new hero object is automatically created, but we need to set everything back to normal. So what we do is at first we want to load the next scene or another scene. And in the game manager, we don't have any load after battles. Load the correct scene after battle. So we create this one pretty quickly. It's going to have to be public void load scene after battle, like this. Okay, which one do we want to load? Well, the one we saved before we enter it. And before we enter it, we set the last scene to the current scene we have been in. So we take that last scene or that last saved scene and load that. So scene-manager.load scene is going to be the last scene. As you can see, like this. Gonna save this. Now we need to call that from the win state in the battle state machine. So we can get out of that. Well, later on you might want to go over and show GUI first before you go to the win state, but for now I don't want to take too long time for you and for me. So I say GameManager.instance dot, and well, what we want to do is we want to load scene after battle. And end the line. Also, what we want to do is we want to set the state, the battle state, or not the battle state. We want to set the world state or the game state to be world state again, so we can go over, walk, and get random encounters. So what we do is we set this one again like game manager instance dot game state is going to be equal to. Now we have the possibility to say game manager game states dot world state. And the last one is we want to clear off the enemies to battle list. So game manager dot instance dot enemies to battle dot clear. So there will be no guys left in that. Then we break out and then we are done. That's cool. Don't forget to save. And let's return to Unity once again and let's test this one out. So we walk around a bit. I'm gonna zoom in so I may remember the location. Okay, we have been pretty much in the upper part. So now I can attack this guy, and what you have seen, oh, we don't get back. Into start battle, let's see. We took the last hero position and stored the current position, but we didn't store that into the next position. So next position, next hero position is going to be equal to last position or last hero position. Otherwise it's not working, so that's how we can fix that. So that's directly in the game manager too, in the start battle function. And yeah, don't forget to save and test again, because I want to make sure that I get back to where I came from. So walk up a bit, couldn't do much. Let me try again. Okay, that's where I am, over here. Let's see when I get encountered. There we go, in the top right corner. The enemies don't seem to have much HP. Okay, there is a problem with the dying too fast thingy, I believe. Okay, there we go, we won. And now you can see we are in the top right corner once again back. And we can go forward and walk around. This small argument out of range is going to be when we are handling stuff too fast, I believe. So we need to clamp that values later on, or basically go over to that little problem and fix this later on. This is just a in-game battle stuff we may have not encountered yet. Okay, but yeah, until then I believe we are done with encountering the battle, getting into it and getting out of it. Thanks for watching the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumb this video up if you like it and feel free to become my patron or donate by using PayPal to support me and my channel in the future. All links will be below in the description. See you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.